Check. I'm on like I'm headed nowhere fast, running in place, gun in my waist. Niggas wanted to taste, but wouldn't come in my face. So what that mean? Cats is playing games again. So now what I do? Start naming names again. All you player haters know that I speak from the heart. You play like you don't know. LOX is gonna bark. We can take it there, but to make it fair, there's some more niggas. Locks and myself, we come with like 4 niggas. Y'all niggas best to stop playing, cause it'll be the one that you forgotten about that'll get you shot in your mouth. Got my dogs covered. Plus it's all gravy like chicken when it's smothered. It's dark and I love it. Get him, boy. Let him loose. You want it with the dog or the gun? Let him choose.
We lost him, man. Just yesterday they were shutting down all the rumors that he passed. And now, less than 24 hours later, he's gone. I'm so tired of this, man. Just last year we lost over 200 rappers, most of them to gun violence and drug overdose. And now one of the legends in the game, somebody who fought against his addiction, died the same way after being in a coma for an entire week. For those of you who don't know what I'm talking about, Earl Simmons, also known as Darkman X, in short DMX, was rushed to the hospital last Friday, April 2nd, after having 3 heart attacks resulting from an overdose. He apparently didn't get enough oxygen as they were trying to resuscitate him for 30 minutes, and by the time he got to the hospital, he was in critical condition. The doctors initially said that he was in a vegetative state with little to no brain activity left. But then a day later, his attorney stated that X was taken off life support and that he was breathing on his own. But then it turned out that he had been given wrong information, and that his condition became even worse. His family was then left with the decision to either take him off life support and let him pass, or let him fight till the end. And today we got a statement from his family saying that he had passed after suffering a cardiac arrest. This is so messed up, man. I don't know if you have been told this before, but X has been dealing with his addiction since he was 14. He had an abusive childhood and some guy gave him crack when he was still a kid. And since then he went through many ups and downs in his life. The guy was at the top at one point and full of energy, but he somehow lost control over his life and became a physical and emotional wreck. He also got arrested like 50 times, and then in 2016 he almost lost his life after having a drug overdose at a parking lot. He wasn't breathing and had no pulse, but somehow pulled through and tried to change himself. He was also working on a new album that he had promised for the fans, and his overall health seemed to be improving, so I thought he would never have a drug problem ever again. But sadly, he had a relapse this year that he tried to hide from his fans. It's just depressing to see how it all ended for a fan that has followed and seen the biggest moments of his career and how it developed over the years. When Pac and Big passed, they were looking for the next big thing, something fresh, something new, and everybody was trying to find the next Tupac or the next Biggie, and just because of that rappers tried to imitate them. It just happens that DMX and Big Pun came out at that exact time. People always compared them to the deceased legends, but DMX didn't even want to be called the new Pac.
They're like, oh, you like the next Pac? I'm like, no, I'm the first X. They would say that.
Great.
They would say that. Oh, you're the next Pac? I'm like, no, I'm not the next anything. I'm the first.
I know nowadays it's perfectly normal to compare yourself to a highly respected rap artist, but back then everybody was trying to be themselves, and those who were trying to bite other MCs got called out by their peers and rap fans in general.
They couldn't possibly want to be like me because they don't know who the fuck I am. How about they be like themselves? And if you're gonna rap, do it because you love to do it and have a purpose. That's what I can tell them.
Ja Rule, for example, was always accused of copying Pac, and some people have tried to do the same thing with X, but X didn't even like Pac back then.
Transforming ass niggas who get it quick. And yo, for real, that nigga Tupac can suck my dick.
During the East Coast-West Coast war, he was dissing him in freestyles that ended up being K-Solo disses once Pac passed.
I actually had a chance to see Pac.
Oh, word?
Walking.
I never met Pac.
He said oh my God. It's on Hammond Way off Sunset in LA.
Okay.
That hotel.
Okay.
And I saw him. He was a cool dude. He seemed cool.
So who knows what would have happened if Pac wasn't involved in the Vegas shooting. It's just mind-blowing to me how much these two have in common. Even their deaths have a lot of similarities. They both had a near-death experience years before they died of the same cause. Pac got shot 5 times in New York in '94, and 2 years later he got shot again and died after being in a coma for an entire week. X overdosed in 2016 and almost lost his life. 5 years later he OD'd again, got in a coma and died a week later. We lost both of these legends on the second Friday of the month. Pac was 25 years old and X was 50. They were both way too young when they passed, but they are still far above the average age of rappers that died over drugs and gun violence in the recent years. You can't even imagine how many people in hip-hop we lose every year, and nobody really cares enough to address this issue. I had to research it myself and went through multiple memorials for gun violence and drug overdoses, and also newspaper articles to give you last year's list. I counted like 200 rappers, and I'm afraid that we will lose more this year. Hip-hop is in such a messed up place right now that we can't even address these issues without getting called out for being a preachy old head that can only hate on the new generation. The media and rap fans in general seem to only care when some of the biggest artists pass. And even then we get comments like these. DMX was one of my biggest heroes growing up, and as a kid I couldn't even imagine a future in which he dies of something that is widely accepted and promoted in the culture and by its most popular artists. I don't know if I ever told you this, but X was actually the one that introduced me to hip-hop. Him, Eminem, and later on 50 Cent. When I first heard them on MTV, I was still a kid who couldn't even speak English. I remember seeing all the music videos to his biggest hits from the late 90s and early 2000s. The earliest memories I have from him are from '98 when I was 4 years old. He had a song out called I remember watching that music video of him being on a respirator in a hospital. I couldn't understand a single word that he was saying or what the video was all about, but I recalled bits and pieces of it years later when it appeared in an MTV throwback. English is my third language, and I started to learn in '03 when I was in 3rd grade. By that time I was already a fan of him and M. When I saw his music videos as a kid, I was scared that he would jump out the TV and attack me. I remember waiting for his songs to appear when MTV was running down their top 100 lists. It was my only source for new music back then, mainly because I come from a poor immigrant family that lived in a 1-bedroom apartment without heating. We couldn't afford spending too much money on leisure or luxury products, so we never bought CDs and music in general. The first time I ever listened to a full DMX project was in a shopping mall in '04. There was an electronics store with brand new iPods, Walkmans and MP3 players that I would occasionally go to test all the new devices and everything that I couldn't afford as a kid. And I remember waiting 10 minutes until one of those iPods on the shop counter was free to use. I scrolled through the playlists looking for X, M and 50 Cent's music, and I didn't even know what an album was back then. I only saw the names and the covers and picked whatever looked best. Get Rich or Die Tryin' was the first rap album I ever listened to. I also checked out Grand Champion by X and The Eminem Show. But I didn't get a chance to listen to them in their entirety because you could only park for 1 hour in that shopping mall parking lot. And it was very frustrating for me because I could only listen to like the first minute of each song until my parents came back and we had to leave. We didn't come back for a month or so, and I wanted to listen to the remaining parts of the albums. By the time I came back, they already replaced the songs on that iPod, and I didn't have a chance to listen to them until one of my neighbors introduced me to LimeWire, and the rest is history. But yeah, I have so many childhood stories that are related to X. He was definitely a big influence to me growing up. I went back to all of his albums and also his demo tapes from '92, his soundtrack appearances, his EPs, and also all of the unreleased music that was floating around the web. It's Dark and Hell is Hot from '98 became my favorite DMX album. It's such an amazing project, from the epic intro to the singles and also the other album exclusive tracks. And my favorite songs were Rough Riders Anthem, Fucking with D, Look Through My Eyes, Get At Me Dog, Let Me Fly, Damien, How's It Going Down, Stop Being Greedy, and I Can Feel It. But to be honest with you, I love all the tracks on that project. It went 4 times platinum, and he even released another album that year that also went multi-platinum called Flesh of My Flesh, Blood of My Blood. This one was mainly produced by Swiss Beats, and he was the second rapper to have 2 #1 albums released in 1 year, the first being Tupac with All Eyes on Me and the Don Illuminati, The 7 Day Theory. But my favorite songs on there were Bring Your Whole Crew, which was a Tupac, Corrupt and K solo diss track, We Don't Give a Fuck with Jadakiss and Styles P, Coming From, It's All Good, The Omen, which is basically a part 2 to the song Damien, which was on his previous album, and then of course Slippin', which was the first song I heard from him, No Love For Me, Blackout with the Lox and Jay-Z, and The Heat. All amazing tracks. And the year after that, in '99, he had another multi-platinum album called And Then There Was X, which was his most successful one. He sold more than 5 million copies as of 2001 and was also nominated for the Best Rap Album at the 2001 Grammys. My favorite tracks were One More Road to Cross, Here We Go Again, of course Party Up, which was his most successful single in the US, What These Bitches Want, What's My Name, which is the most energetic turn-up rap song in history, and one of my favorite X songs of all time. But all of them were great, to be honest. His 4th album, The Great Depression, was another #1 hit that gave us classics like Who We Be, We're Right Here, Damien 3 and I Miss You with Faith Evans. That was his 4th #1 platinum album that he released in '01, and then he dropped Grand Champ in '03, which was the first DMX album I ever listened to in its entirety. It also went #1 and sold more than 1 million copies, but this one was his last album before his downfall. You could notice it by the credited writers on the tracklist, and he reused verses from unreleased songs and freestyles from the 90s. But my favorite tracks on there were My Life, Where the Hood At, which was the song that almost made me shit my pants when I was 9 years old, Dogs Out, Get It on the Floor, Ring the Noise, Untouchable, We Are Back, We About to Blow, The Rain, and also the bonus track X Gon' Give It To You, which was my favorite song as a kid. I only knew the music videos by the time he released all of these projects. I didn't know the album exclusive songs until I had internet in the mid-2000s. That was around the time when he dropped Year of the Dog again in '06, which was his first album that didn't go #1. It was a harshly criticized project that came out after a 3-year break and before a 6-year-long hiatus. Lord Give Me a Sign was my favorite track on there, but that was actually the last time I heard from him until 2012 when he released Undisputed. And in 2016 when he released the Redemption of the Beast album, I compiled my list for the top 50 greatest DMX songs of all time, which I recommend to anybody who wants to get into his music. I saw way too many comments of people who don't know who he is, even though he's one of the kings of this genre. I was listening to his songs on a daily basis back then, and it was nostalgic to me to rewatch his music videos on the internet. At one point, my English was good enough to understand his lyrics, and I could relate to a lot of the struggles he had growing up. I have to thank him for introducing me to the genre. Without him, I probably wouldn't even have this channel. People always call me an old head and tell me that I have to move on, but it's not that easy for me.
The quality of rap fucking sucks right now. There are some nice rappers, there are some talented rappers out there, but for the most part, niggas suck. That's what the fuck it is, man.
If I had to pick between the music that I grew up with and the music of today, I would, without a second thought, pick the music from back then. And I'm not saying that I can't find great music today. It just happens that I enjoy the sound of traditional boom-bap raps with a heavy focus on lyricism, flows and storytelling more than anything in the current mainstream. No rapper that came out in the past 5 years dropped anything that I could put in the same category as a DMX song from the late 90s and early 2000s. The same goes for MF Doom, who also passed away recently. I will never forget them and will always show love and respect for anything they have accomplished. X was a part of my childhood and my teenage years. I can't thank him enough for all the beautiful moments I had listening to his music. I would like to give my deepest and most sincere condolences to his family and loved ones, and may the legend Earl Simmons rest in peace.